Advent has traditionally been the time when the church thinks about the second coming of Jesus, of the end of the world and of the last judgment. And in many ways, this last year has felt at times as if we're living in the end times of the world. We've seen many causes for concern, many wars and rumours of wars. The Middle East continues to be a source of huge concern, and there's been suggestions that there might even be nuclear war again as America and North Korea stand up to one another in powerful rhetoric. Even our own nation's life has been touched by acts of terrorism, and we're mindful of events that have taken place both in London and in Manchester. So it does feel as if everything's a little bit apocalyptic at times. One of the things that sticks in my mind happened last June in London, when the Grenfell Tower, a high-rise residential block, caught fire and indeed was entirely engulfed in flame. Hundreds of people were disrupted. Many people lost all their possessions as their homes were completely destroyed. Indeed, many dozens of people lost their lives. Their homes, which should have been places of safety and of security, places of refuge, became instead places of danger. But alongside this tragedy, there were also signs of hope and of redemption, because we saw humanity at its best as communities rallied around, as people from all walks of life sought to give comfort or to give hope, to give reassurance. Now, Christians have no monopoly on compassion, and indeed the response from the local community was widespread and diverse. But it was a particular point of pride and joy for me to see the Christian churches rallying round and playing a particularly prominent part in offering succour and community at a time when it was needed. Churches literally became places of refuge as they opened up to offer shelter, to offer blankets and hot drinks, to provide a place where people could go to regroup and to gather. As time went on, the churches remained as centres of help and activity, places where food could be provided, where food banks were in operation, where clothing and essential supplies could be accessed. And so the church really swang into action. Christians were becoming Christ for the community. They were revealing the face of Jesus. They were doing what Jesus himself would have done. When the church celebrates Advent, we've traditionally tied in the preparation for the Last Judgment with our preparations for Christmas and thought about how Jesus might come to us in our own homes and our own discipleship. But what Grenfell Tower did for me was to see the whole question of Advent in a fresh way, to think not about the way in which Christ comes to us in Advent, but to think about the way in which we might become the face of Christ for others. What we saw in Grenfell Tower was the churches being the presence of Jesus, the face of Jesus, actually offering the love and comfort of Christ. We could perhaps ask the question how we can become Christ for others, not to think so much about how Christ comes to us, but how we as Christians can be the face of Christ in our communities, how we, by responding to the needs of our communities, can be the active presence and love in action of Christ revealed in the world. Those of us who were at the diocesan conference in October will remember the very powerful address by the Bishop of Chelmsford. The theme of the diocesan conference were the words of St. David, "Gwnewch y pethau bachau," do the little things. And Bishop Stephen spoke to us about how the witness of the Church is not necessarily in the grand things, the big projects, but actually in the little actions that we take in order to reflect Christ's love. And that's the challenge this Advent. Can we be the face of Jesus for those whom we encounter? Can the way in which we work reflect the love of Christ to be the coming of Jesus Christ into the world by our actions, by our love, by our witness? To be a church worthy of Jesus' name. Go out there and change the world, and that will be a Christmas worth celebrating.